My wonderful friends and seniors, I know there comes a time in life when you've given enough, when you've smiled enough, nodded enough, stayed quiet enough. My dearest seniors, this is your moment. Yes, your time to stop being so kind is now. I don't mean stop being good. Kindness is a virtue, but too much of it can cost you your voice, your power, your joy. You've spent decades lifting others up, making sure everyone else was comfortable. But who's been making sure you are? This isn't about becoming harsh or unfeeling. It's about setting boundaries. It's about saying no when you mean no. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. The world needs your wisdom, your truth, your unapologetic presence. So today, I'm here to tell you, stop being kind at the expense of yourself. Because the most powerful gift you can give the world now is the full, unfiltered you. Occasionally we are taught that kindness is the greatest virtue we can give to the world. However, while kindness is powerful, it can also be dangerous. Not because it's wrong to be kind, but because giving too much can weaken your voice, your strength, and your purpose. Kindness is often hailed as one of the highest virtues, a universal quality that we are encouraged to embody in our interactions with others, but it is loaded with complexities that many people fail to recognize. While kindness can heal, uplift, and connect people, it can also become a double-edged sword when it becomes a means of self-nevery. The first keynote highlights the significance of redefining kindness, urging us to recognize the thin line between genuine compassion and the passive acquiescence that can be detrimental to ourselves. Fundamentally, kindness should come from a place of strength and self-awareness. It is about supporting, understanding, and caring for others while staying firmly rooted in our own needs and values. Nevertheless, many people are conditioned to think that kindness should always be given without conditions. This belief can result in situations where kindness becomes a habit that overshadows our own boundaries and desires. When we are too kind, we frequently put the needs of others before our own, which gradually erodes our identity. We may find ourselves agreeing to requests that take up our time and energy, sacrificing our time and well-being in order to please others. This can appear in a variety of contexts, including personal relationships, the workplace, and even our communities. Every time we give in to someone else's demands without taking into account our own limitations, we run the risk of losing sight of what we really need and want. The risk comes from thinking that our value is dependent on our capacity for tolerance and that our compassion is what makes us valuable. Over time, this conduct can lead to bitterness and weariness. Imagine a situation where someone keeps asking for help or favors without recognizing your needs. At first, you might feel good about helping them, but as the requests mount and your own obligations start to suffer, frustration sets in and you start to question why. The constant pressure to be the pleasant one can cause emotions of emotional and mental tiredness and depletion, which is why you frequently feel taken for granted, even if you always say yes. Reevaluating your definition of kindness calls for courage and self-reflection. It asks you to consider whether your acts of kindness are motivated by genuine compassion or by a sense of duty stemming from a fear of rejection or disapproval. It also pushes you to be open and honest with yourself about your boundaries. Finding a balance between taking care of others and taking care of yourself is what assertively authentic kindness is all about, not going above and above for others. Redefining kindness requires realizing how crucial it is to establish boundaries. Boundaries are rules that safeguard your space and your energy and help you keep positive relationships with both people and yourself. They are not walls that keep people out. Setting limits can be awkward at first, especially if you're accustomed to always saying yes, but it's essential for building mutual respect and understanding in any relationship. By being explicit about your boundaries, you show others how to treat you and show that your time and effort are precious resources. A more nuanced approach to human relationships is made possible by acknowledging that kindness can be used strategically. Not everyone is deserving of your generosity, so it's critical to recognize when your compassion is being misused and when it is truly appreciated. This awareness does not imply that you should be less kind. Rather, it improves your capacity to focus your efforts on relationships that benefit both parties. It involves being deliberate and discriminating in your choice to show kindness to people who reciprocate and show gratitude. By redefining kindness, you also create the opportunity for a deeper comprehension of compassion in general. Though it also allows for honesty and assertiveness, compassion is an active process that promotes empathy and connection. It permits vulnerability while acknowledging that you do not have to shoulder the difficulties of others at the expense of your own well-being. Redefining kindness necessitates a mentality change that embraces the notion that putting your own needs first is totally okay. Urges you to embrace your strength, vulnerability, and assertiveness so that you can be your most genuine self. This change may not occur right away. It will take time, practice, and a willingness to feel uncomfortable. As you set out on this path of redefining kindness, keep in mind that genuine compassion is based on self-awareness and self-care. In addition to improving your own life, knowing the intricacies of kindness helps you build stronger, more harmonious relationships. The idea of overkindness carries with it a set of risks that are frequently disregarded in our pursuit of being good, compassionate people. However, you might discover that when you learn to be kind to yourself first, you will be able to offer a deeper, more genuine form of kindness to others, one that does not drain you, but rather enriches your life and the lives of those around you. Many of us have been taught that kindness is an unwavering virtue, but when compassion turns into a habit that compromises our well-being, this notion can become problematic. The second speech discusses these risks, highlighting how being overly kind can result in emotional weariness, self-neglect, and even anger against the people we try to assist when we routinely put their needs ahead of our own. We begin to lose sight of our own aspirations, objectives, and even identities. This phenomenon frequently develops gradually, making it simple to overlook at first. You may start to feel resentful not only toward the people you've tried to help, but also toward yourself. This resentment can turn into a toxic cycle where the kind person becomes a victim of their own kindness, feeling trapped by their inability to say no. Let's discuss the implications of emotional burnout further. Emotional burnout occurs when we consistently invest our emotional energy into situations that yield little in return. It can manifest as a sense of frustration, hopelessness, or even cynicism. Sadness and inferiority complexes. People could discover that they are doubting when kindness is motivated by a desire for acceptance or approval. It becomes transactional rather than genuine, which begs the question of why they feel exhausted despite their best efforts to be kind and encouraging. This way of thinking can make the good person feel trapped and that their entire worth is in pleasing other people, which exacerbates emotions of bitterness and exhaustion. Overkindness frequently has an impact on relationships with friends, family, coworkers, and others, in addition to the individual. People may start to take kindness for granted, believing that their requests will always be fulfilled without taking into account the cost to the giver. This can cause relationship imbalances where one person continuously gives while the other only receives. The kind person may eventually withdraw, causing tension and distance in one's supportive and nurturing relationships. Understanding the risks of excessive compassion encourages us to reconsider our reasons. It forces us to consider whether deeds of kindness are motivated by true compassion or by a desire to live up to social norms. This introspection is essential for personal development and building healthy relationships, but it can be difficult since it makes us face our fears of rejection and insecurities. It's critical to realize that establishing limits is not. The benefits of this change are significant. By putting our own needs first and learning to be selective in our kindness, we can develop deeper, more genuine connections with others. By realizing the dangers of overkindness, we empower ourselves to escape the cycle of self-neglect and emotional exhaustion. Setting clear boundaries is not synonymous with being unkind. In fact, it can lead to a more meaningful and balanced form of kindness. When we learn to say no, we are not only protecting our own well-being, but also showing others the value of treating others with respect. We start to realize that compassion can be a source of strength rather than a weakness when it is applied deliberately and thoughtfully. It enables us to approach relationships with equilibrium, making sure that we are giving without sacrificing who we are. Knowing and addressing the risk of excessive kindness can change how we approach compassion and connection. By putting our own health first and establishing boundaries, we can embrace a more genuine kind of kindness that improves not only our own lives, but also the lives of people around us. This change opens the door to more wholesome and courteous relationships that value our uniqueness and our ability to care for others. The third keynote questions this viewpoint by highlighting the fact that despite its value, kindness should never come at the expense of our own mental and emotional well-being. The mainstream narrative surrounding kindness frequently portrays it as an unquestionably positive quality that should always be pursued. Adopting a worldview that sees kindness as a responsibility rather than a choice is dangerous because it can cause guilt and humiliation when we feel incapable or reluctant to show kindness. The expectation to be kind can cause internal conflict, especially when our own needs and feelings conflict with what is thought to be the right thing to do. For instance, if a friend is going through a difficult time and asks for help, your natural reaction might be to give it to them completely because kindness demands it. But what if you are feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or even hurt by their actions? This internal conflict between the need to protect your emotional well-being and the desire to be kind can result in feelings of guilt and thoughts like, I should help them, or I'm not a good friend if I don't support them. When we continuously put the needs of others before our own, we run the risk of putting ourselves in a position where our own needs are neglected. This can take many different forms, such as emotional burnout, anxiety, or even resentment toward those we are trying to help. This mindset pushes you into a corner where your own feelings are ignored in favor of the expectation to be kind. Over time, this guilt can develop into a toxic pattern of self-neglect. When kindness is framed as a duty, it can result in a distorted understanding of relationships rather than mutually beneficial interactions. The very act of kindness that is meant to create connections can become a source of emotional distress, leading to a cycle of self-sacrifice that leaves us feeling depleted. When we give and others take, we may find ourselves in one-sided dynamics that can lead to resentment because we may feel undervalued and taken advantage of. The pressure to always be kind can make this dynamic even worse by making it harder for us to voice our needs or set boundaries. By questioning the idea that being kind is a duty, we may investigate what compassionate relationships really mean. When kindness is a choice, it becomes a potent expression of connection that fosters deeper relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. This shift can empower us to say no when necessary. It encourages us to adopt a mindset where kindness is seen as a gift, something that flows naturally from a place of emotional well-being rather than a requirement, enabling us to put our own needs first without feeling guilty. It's important to understand that kindness is not the same as weakness. By changing the way we think about kindness, we can adopt a more assertive and resilient approach to how we interact with others. When we put our own needs first, we develop the emotional resilience required to being truly present for the people we care about, enables us to provide support without running the risk of exhausting ourselves, guaranteeing that our generosity continues to be a source of strength rather than worry. The development of self-compassion becomes essential. Self-compassion entails treating ourselves with the same consideration and kindness that we would extend to a friend. It also entails admitting our own difficulties and realizing that it is entirely okay to put our needs first. We can reduce the guilt that comes from standing back and assessing our needs at any given time by engaging in self-compassion exercises. Redefining kindness makes it possible for our relationships to feel more authentic because when we are open and honest about our emotions and limitations, we encourage others to be the same. Instead of encouraging animosity, we provide chances for candid communication, understanding, and connection in a respectful atmosphere where everyone feels free to voice their needs and boundaries. It is liberating to realize that kindness shouldn't come at the expense of our mental and emotional well-being, since it gives us the freedom to choose how and when to show kindness in our relationships without compromising our own well-being. By challenging the idea that kindness is a duty, we develop a more genuine approach to human connection and empower ourselves to engage in relationships that are not only supportive but also enriching. In this way, kindness becomes a powerful tool for connection, enhancing our lives without compromising our mental health. This balance is essential for maintaining healthy, fulfilling relationships that honor both our needs and the needs of others, or mental well-being. By cultivating this perspective, we can reinterpret kindness as a decision based on self-respect, strength, and honesty. When we talk about emotional health and interpersonal relationships, the notion that too much compassion might result in manipulation is a crucial issue. The fourth keynote highlights the fact that although kindness is frequently seen as a selfless deed, it can also be a double-edged sword when used by those who would take advantage of it for their own benefit. This manipulation can happen in a variety of contexts, including personal and professional ones, so it's important to approach kindness with discernment. In many cases, people may intentionally or unintentionally use kindness as a tool for manipulation. For example, someone may show kindness to another person in order to elicit a sense of obligation or indebtedness. This behavior can create an unequal power dynamic in which one party feels obliged to return the favor, frequently at the price of their own requirements. In these circumstances, the act of kindness is no longer a sincere demonstration of goodwill, but rather a deliberate ploy to obtain favors or emotional support in exchange. This manipulation destroys the entire nature of kindness, turning it from a real gesture into a transactional exchange. People who practice manipulative kindness frequently take advantage of social norms that link virtue and strength with kindness. They may portray themselves as incredibly nice and caring people while hiding The impact of manipulative kindness can be profound, resulting in a range of negative emotional responses. This causes a difficult situation for those on the receiving end, who may find it difficult to distinguish genuine kindness from itive behavior. As a result, victims of this type of emotional manipulation may experience confusion and internal conflict, questioning their perceptions and feelings about the relationship. Victims may feel trapped in a cycle of obligation or guilty for not returning the favor. Because people may feel that their value depends on their capacity to live up to the manipulative person's expectations, this emotional upheaval can undermine self-esteem and cause feelings of inadequacy. The psychological effects of this manipulation can be severe, leading to relationships that are strained and anxiety-ridden. When people realize that their generosity is being used against them, it can cause them to defend their posture in future interactions and make them reluctant to interact with others, for fear that their goodwill will be misinterpreted or used for other purposes. As people distance themselves from possible connections in an effort to shield themselves against more manipulation, this protective mentality can lead to loneliness. The circle of kindness is contaminated by the dread of being harmed or taken advantage of once more, which causes real relationships to fail. Understanding the possibility of manipulation also encourages us to think about how crucial discernment is in our relationships with other people. When we are conditioned to react favorably to kindness, it can be especially difficult to assess whether the acts of kindness are truly intended to help or are being used as a means to an end. Therefore, it is essential to develop a heightened awareness of our emotional landscape in order to navigate this complex situation. Setting firm limits in our relationships can be advantageous terrain. When we are clear about what we can provide and what we require in return, we create an environment that fosters mutual respect and understanding. Setting boundaries enables people to convey their limits and safeguard their emotional well-being without giving in to guilt. This can be especially crucial in work environments where it can be difficult to distinguish between being friendly and manipulative in the interest of fostering greater teamwork. To counteract the consequences of manipulative kindness, it is essential to develop self-awareness by being aware of our own needs and emotional triggers. When we have a firm grasp of our boundaries, we can behave assertively rather than reactively, enabling us to better manage relationships without sacrificing our well-being. This self-awareness can help us identify when compassion turns into manipulation. Values. In addition to self-awareness, we can approach acts of kindness critically to make sure that we are in relationships that are healthy and fulfilling. By promoting open communication in our relationships, we create an atmosphere where people can express their needs and feelings without fear of repercussions. This transparency lowers the likelihood of manipulative behavior because it fosters accountability and understanding, and when both parties feel comfortable sharing their perspectives, the power dynamics in the relationship become more balanced. enabling more healthful connections, since kindness should be a freely given gift. We can engage in relationships that honor our emotional well-being while also fostering authentic connections with others. When kindness is rooted in genuine intention rather than obligation, it becomes a source of strength and empowerment for both parties involved. Recognizing the potential for manipulation within acts of kindness allows us to reclaim the true essence of compassion by establishing boundaries, developing self-awareness, and encouraging open communication. This knowledge enables us to approach compassion with clarity and judgment, navigating our relationships without becoming victims of manipulation. We can lay the groundwork for meaningful relationships that uphold our emotional well-being while celebrating the power of compassion, redefining kindness as a decision based on respect and genuineness, letting it grow in a way that improves our lives and the lives of people around us. The fifth keynote emphasizes the significance of developing healthy relationships that put mutual respect and emotional well-being first. In a setting where being kind is seen as a duty, people may find themselves in relationships that lack balance and authenticity, which can result in emotional exhaustion, resentment, and eventually the breakdown of meaningful connections. We can change our focus from providing mandatory kindness to creating connections that support and encourage us by realizing the importance of fostering good relationships. Healthy relationships are based on the mutual respect concept, which calls for both partners to respect one another's needs, feelings, and limits. In contrast, healthy relationships thrive on reciprocity, where both people contribute in ways that honor their individual needs. When kindness is seen as a duty, it frequently results in one-sided dynamics, where one person consistently gives while the other takes. This imbalance can cause resentment and frustration because the giver may feel undervalued and the receiver may take the other's kindness for granted. It takes open and honest communication to establish relationships based on respect for one another. People must properly explain their expectations, sentiments, and boundaries. When we do this, we foster an atmosphere that encourages empathy and understanding. This openness enables both parties to resolve any issues or miscommunications before they become more serious problems. Additionally, honest communication promotes vulnerability, which helps people connect more deeply and develop trust. Establishing and upholding limits is another essential component in creating wholesome relationships. Setting clear boundaries helps people communicate their limits and expectations so that others know how to interact with them in a respectful manner. Boundaries are crucial for preserving emotional health and making sure that both partners feel safe and valued in the relationship. When we prioritize our emotional well-being, we create space for authentic connections to flourish. By establishing boundaries, we also encourage others to do the same, creating an environment where everyone feels empowered to express their needs. Boundaries are a protective mechanism that helps people navigate their relationships without feeling overwhelmed or manipulated. It is important to understand that setting boundaries does not equate to being unkind or unhelpful. Rather, it demonstrates self-respect and self-awareness. This healthy relationships, when kindness is offered freely rather than as a way to satisfy a duty, are built on mutual understanding. Understanding and resolving power dynamics is essential to developing wholesome relationships. When one person continuously assumes the position of the provider or caregiver while the other adopts a passive role, people frequently unintentionally get into patterns of manipulation or control within their relationships. Position-like dynamics can result in feelings of imbalance and resentment because one person may feel overburdened by their obligations while the other person may feel unable to change these power dynamics. Building a culture of equality and shared responsibility in partnerships is crucial. When we celebrate the diversity of abilities and attributes in our relationships, we foster an atmosphere where both parties feel empowered to share their strengths and support one another. This collaborative approach not only fosters mutual respect and open communication, but also strengthens the emotional connection and bond between individuals. This entails acknowledging that each person brings unique strengths and perspectives to the table and that each person's contributions are valuable. Maintaining wholesome relationships necessitates a dedication to personal development. Outside of the partnership, each person should be encouraged to follow their own interests, hobbies, and objectives. When people put their own personal growth first, they bring a deeper sense of self to their relationship, which improves its quality overall. Personal development as well builds resilience, enabling people to deal with difficulties with more emotional intelligence and comprehension. By accepting the idea that kindness is a choice rather than a duty, people are encouraged to interact with people who share their values and priorities. When we see kindness as a gift that we can freely give, we open up opportunities for genuine connections to form. These connections are based on understanding, support, and mutual appreciation rather than feeling pressured to be kind. As we develop healthy relationships, it is crucial to continue to be aware of how outside influences affect our interactions out of real affection and respect. Cultural norms and societal expectations can influence how we see kindness and its function in relationship. By questioning these conventions and revising our ideas about kindness, we can foster an atmosphere that supports wholesome relationships. By adopting this approach, we can navigate the complexities of human interactions with grace and integrity, fostering meaningful connections that uplift and inspire us. This shift enables us to prioritize our emotional well-being and foster relationships that are nurturing and supportive. The journey toward building healthy relationships that prioritize emotional well-being and mutual respect requires intentionality and self-awareness. By acknowledging the importance of open communication, setting boundaries, addressing power dynamics, and committing to personal growth, we create a foundation for connections that thrive on authenticity and support. The 6 keynotes highlight how important it is to put one's emotional health and self-care first. In a culture that frequently equates kindness with personal worth, people may feel under constant pressure to prioritize the needs of others over their own. This tendency can result in emotional exhaustion, resentment, and a loss of identity. By emphasizing self-care, we can regain our sense of self and build a stronger foundation for our relationships, which allows us to perform genuine acts of kindness that are genuinely advantageous to us and people around us. Self-care entails identifying and meeting our own physical, mental, and emotional needs. It is an essential component of preserving our general well-being rather than an act of selfishness. Prioritizing self-care helps us develop a better awareness of our own needs, feelings, and limits. When we are in tune with ourselves, we can recognize when compassion is sincere and when it can be disguised as duty or manipulation. This self-awareness enables us to negotiate relationships from a place of strength rather than responsibility. Adopting self-care also enables us to see how crucial emotional well-being is to our relationships with other people. Neglecting our own needs can leave us emotionally spent and create a vicious circle of toxic relationships. By putting self-care first, we make sure that we are emotionally and cognitively prepared to interact with people in a positive way, which improves not only our own well-being, but also the caliber of our interactions and relationships. It becomes more difficult to practice genuine kindness when we are acting out of fatigue or resentment. Setting reasonable goals for ourselves and other people is a behavior that is part of self-care. Setting clear boundaries and expectations can help us create a healthier dynamic in our relationships. This does not mean that we stop being kind. Rather, it means that we become more deliberate about how and when we show kindness, such as when someone consistently demands our time and energy without taking into account our needs. Many people fall into the trap of thinking that they must always be available or accommodating, which can lead to feelings of overwhelming. By articulating our limits, we empower ourselves to put our emotional well-being first, while also reducing feelings of resentment and dissatisfaction. Establishing deep connections, when we take the time to cultivate our interests and passions, we strengthen our sense of self and purpose. This self-awareness increases our capacity for genuine kindness because we interact with others from a place of abundance rather than depletion. When we are happy and fulfilled in our own lives, we are more likely to offer kindness without conditions. Establishing sincere relationships with other people, self-care entails knowing when to leave toxic or draining relationships. It can be challenging to admit that some interactions may be harmful to our emotional health, but making self-care a priority requires us to be willing to honestly evaluate the state of our relationships. If we find ourselves feeling anxious, resentful, and drained all the time, it might be time to reevaluate the role that certain connections play in our lives. This process of self-evaluation takes courage and honesty. but it is essential for preserving our emotional well-being. Another crucial element of self-care is creating a support system. Surrounding ourselves with people who encourage and elevate us fosters an atmosphere where compassion may blossom naturally. When we rely on the assistance of friends, family, or mentors, we are more likely to feel valued and enjoy this encouraging reaffirmation. Creates a feeling of community and motivates us to show compassion in meaningful ways. Additionally, a strong support system offers a secure environment for us to freely express our needs and feelings, enhancing our bonds and facilitating mutual development. Another essential component of self-care is engaging in self-compassion exercises. By developing self-compassion, we learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend. This shift in perspective allows us to recognize our own needs without feeling guilty or ashamed, which promotes a healthier relationship with ourselves and others. When we practice self-compassion, we are less likely to fall into the trap of manipulative kindness because we are grounded in our self-worth and emotional health. Many people hold themselves to unrealistic standards, which causes them to feel guilty or inadequate when they are unable to meet those expectations. Self-care enables us to grow emotionally resilient. We face many obstacles in life, and when we put our health first, we develop the ability to overcome them more easily. This resilience not only makes it easier for us to handle challenging circumstances, but it also enables us to approach relationships with an open heart and a clear head. When we are resilient, we are less likely to engage in unhealthy patterns or react defensively. Letting our true selves be the source of kindness by acknowledging the significance of our own needs. Putting self-care and emotional well-being first provides a strong basis for developing deep connections and genuine acts of compassion. By establishing limits and partaking in soul-nourishing activities, we foster an atmosphere where kindness This strategy enables us to cultivate connections based on respect for one another and to participate in interactions that inspire and uplift us. Since self-care helps us regain our sense of self, we are better able to handle the challenges of interpersonal relationships and make sure that our kindness is sincere and transforming rather than a duty that saps our souls. By doing this, we honor not only ourselves, but also the relationships that are really important, letting compassion grow in its most genuine and powerful form. In conclusion, the quest to comprehend the true meaning of kindness highlights the significance of emotional health, self-awareness, and genuine relationships. By realizing that being kind should be a sincere show of concern and respect rather than a required behavior, we give ourselves the ability to build nourishing and uplifting relationships in order to prioritize our own needs through self-care and emotional resilience. We can navigate our relationships with clarity and purpose. Setting healthy boundaries and realizing the value of our time and energy allows us to engage meaningfully without the burden of obligation. It is crucial to break free from the societal pressures that equate kindness with personal worth and instead concentrate on fostering connections built on mutual respect, open communication, and shared responsibility. Our actions allow us to be our best selves to others, strengthening our bonds and change in the way we think about kindness. We can open the door to deeper, more genuine relationships that improve our lives and the lives of people around us. By choosing to be kind from a place of strength and awareness, we can make sure that our kindness is impactful and truly reflects who we are. By doing this, we not only honor ourselves, but we also encourage others to practice kindness that is equally meaningful and authentic. Together, we can build a world where kindness flourishes, rooted in emotional well-being and self-respect, fostering relationships that uplift and empower everyone. So, my dear friends, as you move forward from this moment, I want you to remember this. Your kindness has always been a gift, but it was never meant to be a sacrifice. You have earned the right to speak your truth, to claim your space, and to put yourself first when it matters. The world doesn't need your generosity, it needs your voice, it needs your strength, it needs the fire that comes when you stop dimming your light to keep others comfortable. So, starting today, I challenge you, be wise, be bold, be compassionate, but never at the cost of your own peace, because the greatest act of kindness you can offer the world now is showing up as the fierce, unapologetic, fully you that you were always meant to be. Go on and live your truth. The world is waiting for it. Thank you, and God bless you.